This is Truth TOK. We are truth-oriented knights out for the promotion of meaningful discussions to foster democracy. At Truth TOK, we believe the false argument supersedes the argument of force. Hello, fellow viewers of the show Truth Talk. We are back again for another episode. I'm your humble host, Ep-10-with Victor, and today we come back with, I'd say, maybe the magic solution. I'm not very sure, but on the show today we have a guest, and he is presenting what some people might say is the magic solution. Some people haven't looked in this direction, and it's our place to have every opinion on this platform so that we can debate, we can discuss, and see if indeed there is some realism in whatever the opinions are, and how we can pursue such opinions to the very end to bring peace to our region, the Southern Cameroons, as some people put it. Some people still prefer to call it the Anglophone regions, the Northwest and Southwest. But then we're delving deep into what he calls the peaceful permanent solution. The peaceful permanent solution. Sir Edwine Ngang, welcome to the show, and I'd like you to introduce yourself to the audience. Let's get to know a little bit about you, and then we'll delve deeper into the peaceful permanent solution. Sir Edwin.
Well, thank you, Comrade Victor Temkeng and Gabu and all those who have joined us to get here together at Truth Talks. I'm very delighted to be part of your guests to deem me worthy to invite, and also to our audience, whom I believe have a reason to be listening to you because there's great expectation that there's light at the end of every tunnel. And truly, there should be light at the end of every tunnel. We cannot be a society where doom and gloom is our destiny. I am Edwine Gang. I'm just one of the servants that happen to be of indigenous of this geographic territory that we've inherited by, call it the accident of history, geography, and sociology. These three attributes are very important. Our history unites us as one people. We may come from different tribes, from different regions, but we must be very consistent with what makes a people, a nation, and a sovereign state to overcome any difficulties that we inherited as a result of our tribal differences. That is important. Our geography is just the fact that we happen to be located in this Midwest Central African sub-region, which is endowed with all the natural resources that unfortunately we have never benefited from it. I could say never. There's no way nobody can come and say we have been the beneficiary of our bounty. But let's not be too worried about the losses of the past. The peaceful permanent solution is here to tell you the inheritance of your bounty, you who belong in this geographic territory that is formally called. I would like to use some very specific names here so as to start bringing us to point of confluence where we can understand our united destiny. I was about to describe myself. Let me just go back. Being that I engaged the revolution as early as I can say when I was like 8 years, 9 years old. My father, Mr. Diongang, used to be a district officer in Fontaine. Some of you are so young you will not even recall. It's a historical. You
Oh
have to
yeah.
do it. You have to do historical research to find out that there was something in the Bamileke lands at some point in time. During the the termination of trusteeship in the French Cameroon, there was resistance. The true independentist folks were the Union People, the Cameroonians, the UPC
Yeah,
folks, but they
I
were
think
all,
we've
yes.
read a little
So
bit of the history of the UPC. But
yeah,
take
I'm
it.
just saying the fact that I've witnessed the last tail end of their resistance. Being Fontem is close to Chang, being the fact that we're already been marginalized, we have to go through Bafoussam, Fontem, Chang, Boom, Bambutus before we come to Bamenda. And I saw the devastation of the Makiza War. I saw napalm bombing. People do not know that the French army that was defeated in Vietnam did not actually vacate Vietnam and and went back home, but were redirected to Cameroon and vented their frustration by carpet bombing poor villages with what was called napalm bomb, which has been banned. I saw scorched earth, like it was almost burned down to the ground. I saw heads, I saw skulls of I think of killed freedom fighters pinned along the road. My father had to put his hand across my face so I shouldn't see them. But these are situations that made me understand our relationship with people who had a civil war, which we should never have been with them in the first place. And now we are now having our own, not civil war, because it's not a civil war, it's a war of liberation. Makes me understand that, oh no, this is we can't have what is called double jeopardy. I cannot be witness to, without even the knowledge of having done the research, which I did deliberately, I've invested my energy in understanding why these two dissimilar properties come to be together. As young as 11 years old, I asked the question, why do people have to have laissez-passer? I couldn't get an understanding. Why? I mean, and when they had that, their 1972, what they call peaceful green revolution, it was like, what do you mean by that? It turned out that there was no vote against that situation, and it turned out to be true. Fast forward to today, I became involved with the revolution as far back as when I came to America in 1984. I did not exist in Cameroon after finishing Yaoundé University. The GCA strike, people do not know what the GCA strike was. The GCA strike was one of the first reactions against the oppression. We organized it in the whole Northwest. I was party to that. I organized with very little resources, young guys in the high schools, and they went against the what they call the at that time they call it harmonization. It was a dangerous thing when you hear words like harmonization, assimilation, and integration. Run away from those words. They are dangerous in a system when the dominant party has what is called negative, has malevolent intentions. These are certain truths, and I like it because we are here for truth talks. But the truths are also part of a system science. Amazonians should always be aware that in a malevolent dominant system can never generate good outcomes to a minority system. It just does not, it doesn't work anywhere in what is called animate and inanimate systems, whether it's a plant system or is a mechanical system, it just don't work. So why do we expect democracy to be a positive outcome from the recent election to be to be to be all over the place as we're having great expectation for a Chiroma administration delivering us? It's just wishful thinking. It does
Yeah,
not
so
work.
you were earlier talking about the UPC war, the Makiza war, and then our own war of liberation, and you were asking yourself far back at that time why we're engaging in this war, and we see that today we are close to another war. When we're talking about the post-elections war, but let's not go deep into that. I just thought I should bring that up as well. But yeah, so in our discussions behind the scenes, we've talked a little bit behind the scenes. You uh, kind of have a relationship with Fangodi Dinka. Would you tell us a little bit about that? Just a little bit.
Tongue Welindika is like my father, my mentor, my everything in about telling me why we have never been Cameroonians. I got I volunteered to work with him. I did not know about him until a meeting in about 1990, meeting somewhere around June in Washington, D.C., the outskirts of Silver Spring. And everybody in those days used to attend. He was there with Albert Mukong, whom I have worked with, Albert Mukong of late. I helped him compile the case of Southern Cameroon, and one professor from one Western university. The three of them came in a meeting, and his point of view just coincided with mine. That's how I volunteered to become part of. At that time, we used to call it initially we wanted to call it Ambazonia Restoration Movement, but in those days in the 90s, it was so extreme radical that we softened it and call it the Southern Cameroon Restoration Movement, so Cremo. From 1990 to 1995, until we converted it to, we started calling Republic of Amazonia. So yes, I got involved with him by virtue of the fact that he visited the United States and opened up to the realities that this society, that this country, this Cameroon citizenship that we hold is not fully, again, legal because it has been abrogated by the Restoration Law of 1984. The only time we can legally be called Cameroonians if there's a federation. It's stated there in the Constitution, Article 1. Cameroonian citizen is bestowed to us, the former inhabitants of Republic of Southern Cameroon, by virtue of the existence of a federation which does not exist now. So you can now make a choice. If you want to remain Cameroonian, and this is where the peaceful settlement solution is so logical and so naturally intuitive to our rights and so organically evocative of power that it does not require you to be knowledgeable about everything. If you really want your Cameroonian citizenship, you can go back and trace it to the constitutional framework and find out where it is. You'll find out that the relationship was severed in 1984 by the Republic of Cameroon. So when they claimed one and the indivisible, they are right. The Republic of Cameroon, by virtue of the constitution, is one and indivisible. But it cannot stretch that extrajuridically to include the former now of a confederation, which was never established by law. Only reason why they have gotten away since 1961 is as a consequence of us, the victim of a recolonization, not being a united polity to state this truth. And the facts will be self-evident that when the day, to the extent that we come out and reconstruct or deconstruct the facts of how two dissimilar properties, which nobody on earth can imagine should even be contemplated as being created as to form one union, came to be a union. Then people will say, but wait a minute, what happened? Then they'll see that, of course, it was 1961 plebiscite, 10 points, the 8 matters of confederation were supposed to form a constitution to be called Federal United Cameroon Republic. They'll look at it and they'll find out that no such thing existed because Cameroon registered at the United Nations, and these are facts. And let the audience take note of this. Cameroon registered at the United Nations on January 12, 1960. They got independence, and by virtue of independence, you have to formally register with your name. But the name that Cameroon used to register was clearly premeditated in anticipation of its annexation intent. They registered as the state of Cameroons with an S. Okay. Why did they do that? Because they had already signed the cooperation agreement in France prior to being independent. They were aware of Resolution 1352 pending to be executed between 1960 and 61. So, with the advice of France, and in 1957, BP had discovered petroleum, which included the aquifer all the way to Amazonia. So the French intelligence told them, say, hold on. Do not register as Republic of Cameroon. Wait until we see the outcome of the plebiscite, then we will go ahead. They played us like the toys. So they registered as a state of Cameroon. And when they filed their case at the ICJ in April 1994, we
If we should
in the Bakassi incident, they also filed not as Republic of Cameroon, but as the state of Cameroon. Okay, these are important elements because it will not attach to some concept of truth
if
called.
we should go a little bit back, if we should go a little bit back to 1960, and the claim is that they filed as the states of Cameroon. We know that they had their independence January 1960. Southern Cameroon's had its own independence way after that, 1961 October. But I mean, the plebiscite was on February 11th of February 1961. So you're talking of the French having told them to wait and see the outcome of the plebiscite, which is a whole year after, more than a year after, to file their case, to file the name.
Well, here's the thing, because here's what happened. In on May 10th, on May 30th, 1960, Ahidjo decreed the name Federal Republic of Cameroon. Of course, those are Federal Republic of Cameroon federating with who? It's part of the history that we do not take seriously, but it has been very impactful. Of course, on the ground, on the tone of this was that they were very confident now of the outcome of the plebiscite because they had infiltrated our entire polity. We know that. The Cameroon Society, KS, since 1952, funded by Support Priso, RJ Dibonge, and one Dibui guys, created some innocuously looking think tank organization called KS to debate matters of trusteeship termination. But when you do the research, you find out that it was all redirected to the reunification of the fictitious notion of a German Cameroon. And here's where we just have to look at this truth. I like the truth talk. When you see the facts of history are the truth, it will help us understand how we came into being basically re-annexed by another African country, which itself was a trusteeship territory. It is sometimes so shameful that we are no longer being colonized by a white man who is technologically superior, but by a black African country with inferior cultural attributes in democratic appreciation. So why do we have to then seek a change process which is so dramatically
Now,
away from power? I'm
now,
giving you this information so that you know the history. Go ahead.
Now, if the claim is that they were already anticipating the plebiscite in of 1961, which was way after their independence, to file their name as the states of Southern Cameroons, that would have taken a whole year for them to file the name, the states of Southern Cameroons. And uh, isn't it true that Cameroon was one of the countries? One of the few countries that voted against the independence of Southern Cameroons, meaning that they didn't even want the people to have the independence by joining Nigeria or even by joining La République du Cameroon. And that's where a case has been made by some of the parties vying for independence or restoration of independence that Cameroon didn't want this union in the first place, and it was kind of shoved down their throats. So are we saying that they were anticipating all this already, or I want to put
Yeah,
the
yeah.
box?
You have to understand that in the geopolitics, interest shift. When they reached that state of Cameroon, they decreed Federal Republic of Cameroon later in the May. And we know that, by the way, we got independence when trusteeship was terminated. That's the most logical point of our independence. You can't have independence at the point where you are having a confederation. It makes no sense. I don't know why SCNC took that model of argument because it's an acknowledgement. It disallow you from understanding your natural rights entitlement in Article 6B. You see, Atkinson CSB should have been all our guides that should have guided and still should guide our advocacy recognition quest. The Amazonian Revolution, which is, I call it, our desire to subsist and propagate in our war, should be guided by a premise which is incontrovertible. We should stay away from politics. To go back to your question, La Republic at that time was a sovereign state, and that motion came in I think what when was that debate in the fourth council? Why would they vote for Southern Cameroon independence when they already had intelligence? Andrew Cohen was already clearly out against us because we were not conscious. We were a political culture oblivious of the concept of a sovereign entitlement. Let's accept the truth. All the political parties, all advocated reunification, KKKKK, KNDP, KUNC, KNC, KPP. Okay. The only time we had references to independence was almost when they say in pidgin English, selling after the market. In 1959, when Paul Calais, Chief Stephens, Banga Williams, and at some point in time, we heard allegation of Augustin Joa. They were all, at that time, resolution 1352, which imposed all the plebiscite, had already been adopted. But let the audience put a pause there and remember one thing. It still does not mean it could not have been changed. Why I'm giving you all this background is because it's important how we today can get back into a universe, albeit with having adopted different strategies all over the place, know where the content of power exists. Cameroon is aware of it, but terrified that we will one day discover it. And I'll give you instances of why they are terrified. And let me just put it out there. Right now, as you and I are talking, they are aware that the peaceful permanent solution is gaining recognition and awareness by the population of the Amazonian. We are campaigning in Nigeria, and I'm hoping that the federal government of Nigeria will adopt it based on its own responsibility to see Article 51 established in the sub-region. So they want to go and build what they call muddy the water with multiple choice referendum. But I'll start one there so that you can ask me the question later.
Yeah.
Here's where we ought to be concerned with. If we are a people who had all these rights, as I said, became independent when trusteeship was terminated. You remember we had a Southern Cameroon Constitution Order in Council. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So the only relationship between a sovereign party and another sovereign party in creating the joining constitutional arrangement. Go and read all the resolutions passed by United Nations. You find the word constitutional arrangement. So constitutional arrangement doesn't mean annexation. It just means that, okay, you guys decided to implement your Article 6b through the three principles that were provided. Remember, in 1955, United Nations in its bids to allow alternatives for independence through Article 6b, where they said you could become independent on your own, you could integrate with an independent state, or you could form an association. And each time I look at those three things, except the independent one, you see constitutional arrangement. Okay, if you integrate with an independent state, you see the language there, constitutional arrangement. We had constitutional arrangement for what? Integration with a sovereign state. We
Yeah.
have become independent. But the questioner is, was that Article 5 of Resolution 1608 implemented? Absolutely no. There was never any constitutional debate based on those eight matters, which would have created the first confederation analogous to what was happening, is now happening in European Union.
Yeah.
You
I
don't
mean,
know
the
that. So,
argument is that there was a struggle to do that We know about the Bamenda Conference, and then which later went to the Fumban Conference, and the blame by a whole lot of Southern Cameroonians is on our own people or on our own leaders. John Gunn Foncha, uh, of blessed memory, and his entire team for not presenting the case of Southern Cameroons strongly and holding Cameroon's feet to the fire to respect the terms of the confederation as we were supposed to have it. As at that time, they didn't do anything for the constitution to be implemented squarely, but to a certain extent, it was implemented.
Actually, it wasn't. Let's just face fact. When they went to Fumban, as according to Edwin Neville, it was only 90 minutes. That 90 minutes in that. I think how many days they spent there. That was on matters of constitutional, and the constitution that was brought at Fumban was La Republique, Constitution of Republic of Cameroon. Okay. At that time, they had to establish themselves as Federal Republic of Cameroon. The imposition that was done in 1960, they decreed it.
Federal or La République du Cameroon? I'm not.
They brought a constitution of Republic of Cameroon and
Okay.
gave them. They did not debate matters that reconstructed it. Let's just accept the fact that we were completely outmatched. I mean, I'm using this because the peace of permanent solution is based on basically unveiling the truths of our history, as they must also be of our constitution truth and its legal interpretations. You see, I like to make clear a disclosure, what you call preliminary disclosure, that we do not dwell in politics. We try our best never to be caught up in that universe, because politics is where Cameroon's strength exists right now. And the facts, when you use us, when you go into that environment, you got these things are factual. Okay, there was not we did not implement our people's vote at the plebiscite was to form a confederation. There was no confederation. Case closed. There was no, if you have a constitution document, I'd love to see it. By the way, even the Federal Republic of Cameroon Constitution of 1960 is not a federal constitution. Okay, there is no such constitution. Federation does not exist where a president under Article 39 appoints the prime minister of both states. That is a bullshit. And if anybody comes and says that's federation, then you have no concept of federation. Article 49, Article 39, Article 47, which guaranteed the inviolability of the states, was abrogated in 1972, and everything stood. So when we are talking about facts, we are really talking about facts. Cameroon is aware of these facts. The greater majority of Cameroonian citizens do not know of these facts. That is why sometimes people blame La Republique citizens that they are not out there supporting the Amazonian struggle. Here's what I have always asked people: far as the Amazonian politicians gone to present the truths of our relationship so that the world knows it? It has not been done. And who are the people blocking these truths? Right now, as you and I are speaking, it is not La Republique. It is our own very politicians who have gone ahead and be speaking other alternatives to this truth, like one of the one is the interpretation of when we got independence. You say independence was got in October 1, 1961. I look at it and I say, hey, wait a minute. Who, who, how does treaties get negotiated between sovereign parties and non-sovereign parties? International law jurisprudence says a sovereign party that negotiates with a non-sovereign party can never create a treaty. It's annexation. So are we conceding that all the Foncha and Ahidjo talks that happened between June and October and June was part of annexation? Yes, because then what was the December treaty about? They negotiated to form a union between their two sovereign states. But it turned out that Foncha was doing it unaware that he was a sovereign state. Every time we looked at it, we saw the fact that he was clueless. That is the reason why the British people could not allow the Southern Cameroon to become independent, because it would have been taken over by communism. And that is the only weakness that we found in our research, especially after the British declassified files came out in 1990. But it is important
So
for
yeah,
this
so
information.
it's fair to say that the problem was our leaders. But then Sir Ngabo has a question for you, and then let's see what
Sure, sure. Okay.
Yes,
Sir
thank you
Ngabo.
very much, sir. I see you. Yeah, I see you discuss with a lot of facts, and it looks like you have very important information as far as this matter is concerned. I was just wanting, you almost cleared one of my questions. I wanted to ask if it was actually an annexation of Southern Cameroon during 1961. That was the first question. And number two is to go back to our question. Do you think, with all the information that you have, all the facts that you have, that there is a possibility to have a peaceful solution?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It was annexation. I think that's just the easiest way to put it. And you know something about life, you tell what you want. You don't wait for people to tell your problem. We do not need the world to be telling us that we should go dialogue and negotiate without terms. Like right now, what is happening? I can see that Chiroma is already advancing dialogue and negotiation with quote unquote the Amazonian leaders, but it is not based on a constitutional arrangement. You can guarantee that, and they are all falling for it. That's why you can tell, you can trace languages of devolution, special status, decentralization, thing except the fact that two confederations, two sovereign states did not create the confederation they were supposed to create. The experiment, the most important document we need to be getting out there, which is based on the totality of human interrelationship, is that the Cameroon bilingual experiment has failed and should not be proposed by anybody upon us. If we go to some meeting, let's just say we go to London, and we hear the Prime Minister of London say, go dialogue and negotiation, we'll just have to ask him. Our delegation will say, please, under what is the framework, the constitutional framework for the dialogue and negotiation? They can't bring it. They know for sure that it is impossible to be bringing English and French systems, which they themselves have never even contemplated, between France and United Kingdom. Even Canada here, I'm just 500 miles away from North Canada, and I've researched Canada, and it's one of the best places for us to go and do our advocacy, except that for the last couple of years, what I call the anti-sovereignty folks have gone there and got sucked by the tsunami, call it the tsunami of dialogue and negotiation, which was imposed upon them. All the Switzerland talks, the Canadian talks, had nothing to do with independence. Absolutely zero. And this is not a public, this is not even a secret thing. I don't know why our politicians are so disingenuous. On around November 2018, after the Grand Debat had ended, was it the Grand Debat? Was it 2019 or 2018? The Security Council all made pronouncement which was pro Cameroon, but for the peace to return. Remember, as long as our revolution, the Amazonian revolution, has not defined the Amazonian recognition quest as a quest for sovereign recognition by virtue of Article 76B, which is our entitlement in perpetuity, or as we have extended it after visiting and being advised by our champion of blessed memory, Flight Lieutenant Gerald Rawlings. He told us that, look, asking for recognition all the time without giving an alternative to diplomats is too off. Give an alternative. He proposed that we should go for the exclusive referendum, binary choice. You see, we started promoting in 2018 as Amba exit. At that time, we got inspired by what was going on with the Brexit vote of 2016. And we did a very preliminary research and found out that the Maastricht Treaty, which guards European Union is a confederation. It's just they have common military structure, common finances, common. They have some. Almost some countries have no control over their military because they have some intricate relationship. If you find out the French Euro fighter is built between France, Sweden, and Germany. The British plane is built between France, Germany. So they have some intricate foreign policy, economic policy, which is so advanced that you appreciate the value of confederation if the laws are applied. But can that ever be applied in a country where the basic properties of democracy 101 can ever even be installed like Cameroon?
So
There won't
Edwin,
be. Yes.
So Edwin, we're going around a whole lot, and I mean, you're so much into the history. I think you're well read on the history. But let's come back a little bit to the peaceful permanent solution. You put it as a peaceful permanent solution. You're talking about the recognition of Ambazonia, a term which to many ears means a recognition of terrorism, uh, and then you put it as a peaceful permanent solution. How peaceful can the recognition of the Ambazonia, which is still a fiction as at now, how peaceful can it be? So sell to us what you mean by the peaceful permanent solution in a little bit.
Oh yeah, the peaceful constitution is basically is the framework of our entire revolution. Any change process engaged by indigenes of this territory, if they do what is called, if they submit themselves to SWOT analysis before engaging options of change, they will find that their most optimized strategy will be a peaceful permanent solution because it is the one that detonates power. It's the one that organically brings power without us going and begging for GoFundMe, $1 here and there. And this is where it is because it is based on the truths of our history. It's based on the constitutional facts of our that came as a result of our interrelationship with French-speaking Republic of Cameroon. And it's also based on how these facts have been contested in the courts of law. So most people do not know these things because history has to be researched. So they wake up in 2017 out 2017 was about how many years 65 years or so after we had been in this relationship that should have been abandoned in 1961 if Funcha understood what was his right or every stage
I think they
if we were
do. They
united.
did. I think they did, and they made a case at the United Nations. He had a whole delegation going to the United Nations, crying foul, saying that what's going on in that region we do not approve of, and he brought the case for the SCNC, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Nobody those are the type of things in our history that tells us that if our politicians are folks who do not want to be seen as having made a mistake. I think one of the things about our political culture is that we are a little bit attached to personality of cult, and we do not want to challenge authority. We're in a society where we are ethnically aligned to a person and will not challenge it. In 1995, they came to United Nations in New York, but they saw nobody. Okay. I was around. I did not go because at that juncture, the preliminaries had already been messed up. We were in relationship with SNC. We saw when SNC, we is the Republic of Amazonia. Republic of Amazonia filed a case against Cameroon in 1992 in Bamenda High Court, challenging Cameroon occupation of its territory based on the fact that the restoration law, which was passed in February 4th, has dissolved that fake union. Of course, we tried to rally our polity, but in Cameroon, the totalitarian state of terror compelled some people not to have supported Gojindinka. And he had to be self-exiled to promote the Republic Bazonia concept. But we kept reaching out to SNC. SNC is the outcome of Southern Cameroon Restoration Movement was scam. We were there during the AAC1 and AAC2. We submitted strategies that it should have been converted to a constitutional conference by simply invoking the fact that the restoration law had happened. Why this is important is simply the fact that in 1995, that delegation came to New York, but you can go and meet one delegate somewhere, but it was never official. It was all done for political show. They met nobody. And of importance, the United Nations can only be reached through sovereign states. There's no option in United Nations to advocate our matter. Our matter can only be addressed by being brought up by a country. Rather than wasting time and going to see Secretary General, we should waste all our efforts to get a country to support and adopt our cause. Okay, so that 1995 expenditure was just like water under the bridge.
Yes,
It did not matter.
Edwin,
Yes.
yes, I think that if I were a viewer watching the Truth Talk now, I would be very interested in a point that you brought up, that you said SWOT analysis. And you said that is the way to get things done rather than GoFundMe. Does it mean that people are getting it wrong? What is the SWOT analysis that you are talking about? Please, can you expatiate a bit for our viewers to understand?
Yes, how this is a better alternative to what is going on, the fight which is going on.
Of course. And because when we say peace, we are really against the situation. You see, to engage in conflict, it's a conscious act. You don't go to fight just because somebody ego has been bruised. No. And this is where I know how this fighting process began in 2017. And I, as an agent of the sovereignty doctrine of Barcelona, we opposed it because we had intelligence why we should not fight at that juncture. We're not a united Ambassadorial revolution. We were supposed to project the most optimized message for that foreign government to support us. United Nations, Republic of Amazonia officially tables, it's formalized its name, and the Republic of Amazonia was formalized in October 10, 1990 at the United Nations upon advice by our contact with the State Department in the United States. I think that time it was Clinton administration. For 1990. Okay. See, when these people see our polity and they see we have justification, but they see how divided we are, all they can do at certain stages is provide us with advice. Okay. During the course, when you asked a question, I was dealing with Fungus in Dinka. He's about 93 or so. All we were doing is to demonstrate our legal justification so that when the time comes for Amazonian to support it, they have the instruments of saying, we are not Cameroonian, and these are the facts. Yes, and that constitutes, at minimum, we have calculated 30% of the power. Okay, the SWOT analysis part of it is simple. We went to a meeting. You can do it in the classroom. It's a course in any sociological or political science course. Or the one that we did at European Union Institute of Peace in May 28, 2019. When there was this amalgam of incoherent Amazonian groups were invited. It was Egosi who arranged that meeting. We give credit to Egosi because they got the European Union to be interested in our meeting. In those days, people instead of being happy that Egosi brought us that opportunity, we're plotting against it. But me being a Republican ambassador, I'm only interested in an outcome that's good. So we went there, and through and below, those guys in the beginning told us exactly what we are. They said, look, you are here confused, united. We, European Union, the most powerful institution, European Union Institute of Peace, we would like to help your revolution, but please, we will do something in the first day so that we can see whether there's a point of harmony, of consensus between your group. And that happens through SWOT. SWOT means yes, we'll go through the mechanics of system analysis to find out what your strengths are for S, what your weaknesses are for W, what your opportunities are for O, and what your threats are. And lo and behold, I did not know there were two interim government entities at that meeting because I'm really not too much. I do not know most of those guys.
Excuse
But
me,
in that
the
meeting,
interim government had been formed as of then. I know the interim
oh
government was
yes,
formed after the
2019. At that time,
dissolution
there were
of
two.
Skakuf.
Yes, at that time
Oh,
in 2000,
2019? Okay,
yes, there were
2019.
two. At
Okay.
that time, it was two. It became three in
Okay.
20. It became three in 2021, and now it became four in 2022. That time, the interim government number one and two were there. No, but we all agreed on one thing. Let this be made known, please. We all agreed that our strength is our sovereignty. We went through the process. You can go and put freedom of information request at European Institute of Peace, and they'll give you the summary of that. I had the information, but I inadvertently deleted it. That's why I did not get it. But here's what is important. If our strength is our sovereignty, guess what we all agree? We all agree our weakness is politicking. And by inverse, that is Cameroon's strength. Guess what we greet as our opportunities? Our opportunities is the dynamics of the international community. Right now, as you and I are speaking, the opportunities exist for us to reach out to the good people of the world. That's why you see us having in Ambassador write-up friends and sympathizers. People sympathize with our cause. I've seen it. The threats are still the same dynamics. Let me give you one threat. If we continue to be this divisive, if Cameroon post the Chiroma election becomes another DRC imbroglio of chaos and conflict, the geopolitics of the big forces that guide power in that sub-region are going to bet on what is called the hegemonic powers. They're going to bet on us. We have not shown that we are a people who collectively have a sense of direction. So it's a dangerous position where we are now, which is why the peaceful permanent solution is so important for us to be united under, because we foresee what I call a runaway conflict in the greater La Republic, but it will not be to our advantage. Some people are making it, claiming it will be not at all. So by endorsing the People's Permanent Solution right now, what we will do is that the international community that is looking at the threats, which are threats, will now convert that threat into opportunity and raise Ambazonia recognition to the level where it will be separated from Cameroon. We will get the assistance to have the power quotient, because right now we don't have the power to be able to secure our sovereign state, while Cameroon will now be in a better position to fix its allergic problem to democracy. But see, here's one of the preliminary assumptions that was taken by the Ambazonian Revolution from day one. To the extent that the English-speaking people are part of the French-speaking people of a country called Cameroon, there will never be democracy in that country. That was predicted in 1992 and is still absolutely true today. To make any pretense for any politician to go out there like we are reading now, supporting Chiruma, that behold, he will come and magically we will have our parents. They have not understood the dynamics of the negative majority. There's something called malevolent majority.
I really do not think anybody is thinking in that sense, saying that Chiruma is going to come and grant the people independence. I don't think so. But then, isn't it true that the peaceful permanent solution is amazing on paper? It's amazing literature. It's amazing theory, but it's not practical. It's how what are the KPIs of the peaceful permanent solution? How far have you gone as the peaceful permanent solution? We have the situation on the ground now. The stakeholders are known to be the people who are propagating the war, who are so much engaged in the war and will not drop down the guns. These people will not drop down the guns. How do we come to a position where the peaceful permanent solution is endorsed by the majority of the people who think that the gun is the only way to finding our independence as Southern Cameroons, people who think that they should go in a separate state as Southern Cameroons. And
And that's the
so,
question.
how
And also
far
to add
have
on
you
that,
gone?
I think we've also spoken with a lot of people, high profile people who think that uh, the gun is the only way to go about this thing. And they have quoted many examples that it has happened in many countries, and that is the only way that they have survived.
Yeah.
How do you have an example where a peaceful solution has solved this kind of problem?
You know what? That is a question, ultimate question, which is always part of our anticipation. From day one, we've always had the question of fighting. You see, when it is easy for us to understand the echelon of power and the relationship with Cameroon because of the approach of our approach is the sovereignty. So I can appreciate the fact that people have taken guns and think that's the only thing, and it is. You see, at the very beginning, we understood that the power a recalcitrant Cameroon will have to be forced. But what is so important is also how we engage that. When we began the struggle, the Republic of Amazonia started seeking a relationship with its own people to build the psychology of the universe of what now we call the Amazonianness mentality. It took almost 34 years before it got accepted in 2017, thanks to Ground Zero. We give all the credit to Ground Zero, the Coffin Revolution and the Amazon Rising to fall no more. Yes, our Amber freedom fighters are valiant and brave, but do you think I like to see them being killed one by one, either by La Republic or by through the inter-Amber nonsense? No. Do you think that we did never anticipate that we can build a formidable United Ambazonian military? We had serious conversation, but we can never reveal those things out. And this is where the dilemma comes. To the extent that our folks have already engaged in the act of ultimate change, which is the conflict model, we knew that that will happen. Let me just give you a conversation, and it will only be in 2013. The Republic of Amazonia reaching out with foreign because we had already been advised by United States, by Russia, by China. When the Security Council, we met them, their handlers. They told us, look, United Nations route, you come in here, we will not be able to support you, but get a foreign government. Why was that so important after 2006? Because the Green Tree Accord had already been passed, and the Green Tree Accord unveiled the element called the principle of territoriality, which is an argument that Cameroon can never escape. You remember the state of Southern Cameroon, the state of Cameroon made the mistake, and it was Kamto. Kamto was the lead lawyer in 1994. They went and researched and were with the fact that we made Cameroon Bakassi, when we are calling ourselves Republic of Cameroon. Somebody came with a bright idea. Let's write the state of Cameroon. And when you read this voluminous document of over 200 pages, it's hidden there about some 3 pages down. But that's all that we need. So, where is the state of Cameroon? And guess what happened? And please, just bear with me. When the Ginchi Accord, when the Bakassi conflict was sorted out, the only way Bakassi conflict could have been solved was that they said, Nigeria, hand back that territory to the Republic of Cameroon. But here's what happened. When they started looking at the maps of the Republic of Cameroon, the Nigerian Cameroon Mixed Boundary Commission, which was created by the Green Tree Accord, it remember the register as the state of Cameroon. This is one of the greatest fraud that is existing that will be exposed by us if we are organized as the peaceful permanent solution. United Nations Nigerian Cameroon Mixed Boundary Commission, they had to reinvent the Federal Republic of Cameroon to then have that map, which was now part of the Bakassi handing over. It's in their documents, 2008. It's a deep research that even if you go to WhatsApp, you Google, you will not see. You only have to be lucky to hear it. But when you come to that very absolutely point where the United Nations map, you click that part, it will not come out because somebody is preventing you and I from seeing it. But there's something called freedom of information request. We can do that later on. We are not organized. We need to be an organized revolution so that we can have the power to be able to put this. Fast forward, I'm talking about this thing about our boys who have taken up arms. Here's something. United Kingdom in 2019, without our knowledge, was debating in the House of Lords that this our matter has come to the point where the Cairo Treaty, and that was the treaty that brought on the African Union, should now investigate how the treaties between these people came to be. And they found out that Article 4 was violated by Cameroon. But that to sort out this problem before it escalated, an international peacekeeping contingent, they recommended. So we have already an authoritative body right now promoting the principle of unilateral intervention through the presence of peacekeeping force. But the advocacy is supposed to be adopted by the victims. It's not the United House of Lords that will be doing it. Where are the victims? Us, the Ambazonia. We have not gone out there and insisted that we should be promoting cessation of hostility. Cessation of hostility means an independent force yes, will come and separate the combatants. That is how the peaceful permanent solution will happen. We are not saying disarming Amber while Cameroon is armed. No. The whole thing is integrated in the construct of how we will get Cameroon to just answer a simple question that has never been asked Cameroon. How did your boundary extend to be in Bakassi? That is a question which will generate all the mechanics of power that would flow back to our recognition quest. See, I know people will be saying that you say it's all theoretical power. But you see, in international relationship, you do not show your agents. We've been reaching out to foreign governments. They've been telling us what to do at the minimum. We've been pleading, get a modicum of unity on the platform where you have your best argument. And your best argument is not the political argument, which is, according to SWOT analysis, it's a weakness. Our best argument is the truth of just the relationship that we are a sovereign state who unfortunately took up the issue of African Union too excitingly to have been the poster child of Pan-Africanism, but to have this neighbor, which is Robert Cameroon, messing our relationship. If we made that truthful statement, people say, oh, no, this is wrong, this is wrong. So I'm giving you, to answer that question about how you can convert the theory into actual, you have to understand how international relationships work. You have to also understand the elements of power in the Ambazonian revolution. It's a matter of preliminary assumption requirement test. If I, as a change agent, did not do my research, I knew Cameroon has this complement of power. I engaged Cameroon militarily just by a few acres and go and raising funds for GoFundMe. I did my research and with DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, literally not even deep. I realized that even in 1961, when Mo Shombe repelled and Katanga issue, guess what? He had a relationship with Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda because they were ethnically related. Okay, fast forward to today. 23 has relationship with Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Angola. Why are we so stupid? Why do we think we have to engage a foreign country without recognizing the relationships of power, the reality of geopolitics, respecting the fact that the Gulf of Guinea is the most volatile region that geopolitics is interested in seeing remain stable, just as the Horn of Africa? Go and check your research. The Horn of Africa it has a higher coefficient, a little slightly higher. The next one is Gulf of Guinea in Africa. The rest of it can go up in flames, but these two regions cannot. Why? Because of the geopolitics applied. And if people are listening out there, I don't know if you're alive, they should know that do not take geopolitics lightly. meaning that do not say, oh, I don't give a damn. Do you know what? China is already involved in that region. Russia is already involved in Central Africa. And of course, mighty United States has its intentions in that region. If you look at the SWOT analysis, that opportunity and threat is a correlation. It moves to the extent that we are stupid not to respect geopolitics. It's how we will have the threats increase. And to the extent that we do not organize ourselves rapidly and early, now that Cameroon will be moving in a very, very, very unpredictable trajectory after Sunday declaration, is how we will be written off. Let nobody sit out there and be making speculative politics. Speculative politics don't work. We should consciously, as the people entitled to our sovereignty, come out and tell the true story. Here's where I'm pleading that those who think that the power has to be fought by military should also respect the fact that it's just what it is. Recognition of your sovereignty is a convertible currency. I had a conversation in the early 2000s in my relationship here before the Green Tree came out. One of our handlers told us that if you have a country recognize your sovereign state, in a way, how would recognition happen? People say, look, if a foreign minister goes to a conference, say in Dubai or in London, and say we recognize proper ambassador or the president of a country or a press release comes, the document, a video, boom, this now is all that you need. You know what it is? It is convertible currency. You can take that and go to Wall Street on Monday and Wednesday. You have over 10 billion US dollars in your coffers towards your recognition quest by the change option that you can now engage with predictability, the conflict model. We don't be fighting, not having a strategic thinking. That's where we made a mistake in 2017. I did not say to you that one of our handlers in Nigeria told us not to provoke conflict. And we have been told that severally. So we respect international relationship. We respect the geopolitics of the Gulf of Guinea, which favors, guess what? The hegemonic powers, albeit dictatorial, albeit anti-democracy. They want the stability there for whatever reasons, economic, geopolitics, and whatever. So to sit back and arrogantly say, we don't give a damn, you see what's going to happen. Now it is time for us to become the United Ambassador Revolution by skipping above the politics of groupism and this government idea, because what is happening is that ambassador politicians went ahead of themselves to govern without sovereignty. The peaceful permanent solution is seeking sovereignty. Government will take place naturally. Have confidence in ourselves as the united people. We will have the right body of people at the right time to govern our sovereign state. Let's not be jumping ahead, because government, it does not mean nothing. But sovereignty recognition is everything we need. That has power in itself. And okay, ultimately, if Cameroon refuses after recognition of a sovereign country, I told you guys that it's convertible currency. The correlation between the power between what we will have now as a united ambassador revolution versus what now Cameroon has, you will see exactly how that power gets converted in the ground in real terms, not speculative terms. I can only say that because I have had that invested time in talking with people in the past throughout my entire career as an agent of change. If somebody thinks that it's all theoretically, how can I say, except I plead with them to say that, look, we have done a lot to prove that we are a people who can fight. But please, can we do a little more intelligent fighting than what we have been on so far? Do you know that they are terribly, we have good people out there who want to help us. You do not know, from all over the world, we are, okay, here's the best way to look at it. We are the best case of self-determination in the entire world. How about that? We have the best case. Bangsaramo people in Philippines are working on getting a referendum between now and 2027 The Bangsalamo people are the people of the Medio Islands. They're mostly Muslim. There are over 18 million people. They have a military of over 25 million. They produce military weapons in their island. They are supported by over 5 sovereign states, Borneo, Malaysia, Saudi Arabia, because they're Muslim. They've been fighting Philippines, and they've negotiated an exclusive referendum between now and 2027. That's one case. The Aceh people in Indonesia, which is Muslim to Muslim, but the Aceh people feel alienated and marginalized in the greater Indonesia. Indonesia is over 200 million. The Aceh are just about 4 million. The Aceh people are the people affected by the tsunami in 2011. They are also going to have a referendum. They've been fighting their own war all these years. I'm giving you practical examples of how intractable problems get resolved.
Yeah, so I think that when we talk about recognition, it can be very difficult as well because we have, say, Nigeria looking at recognizing Ambazonia would raise a flag of why not the recognition of Biafra? Ghana is a bit distant from us, so the closest neighbor we have is Nigeria, and I don't think they are willing to go down that route. It can be a very slippery slope. But before you take that question, let's take a question from Gabo before he drops he has another meeting, or a statement from Gabo before he leaves us. So Gabo.
Yeah, I'm just so glad to have Edwin. It's rather unfortunate that I might need to drop off. I'll like to meet you again when you have a bit of time. Please join our forum. I think we have lots of discussions to make. I'm so happy with your analysis and would be glad to see you around once again. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Gabo. Please, I like the fact that we have met today. It's God's design. May God keep you safe in Ground Zero.
Yeah, so back to the question, it's the recognition, say from Nigeria. Are we seeing that feasible? I don't personally see it feasible. Ghana, we know that Ghana is distant, but we know that there was the former president of Ghana who had been an advocate for our cause, but he's no longer living. He's of blessed memory right now, and so the question earlier again was, how far has the peaceful permanent solution gone? What has been the outreach, and what are the prospects? How are they seeing it? The parties which they think that are an appropriate party to approach. How far have they gone into having these people recognize our cause and even willing to lend us a hand?
Yes, this is where we've always had a difficulty explaining to people. In diplomacy, you cannot even show documents that you have with your change agents or your handlers. The peaceful permanent solution is doing well, especially in Nigeria, where we have focused all our efforts because we don't have the financing anymore. Prior to COVID, I used to be able to finance myself to Nigeria and Sierra Leone, but well, we're having great strides now in the Tinubu administration. But these are things that are be exposed. These are facts that you can't even expose them, but they are self-explanatory. If the Amazonian people cannot understand their relationship between sovereignty, their sovereign entitlement, right at the beginning, if they cannot recognize that without sovereignty, we are messed up. Without knowing that you deserve to be a sovereign state by virtue of trusteeship termination, at all stage you will be approaching the level of like, oh, I have to fight my way through all the odds. Then the question only has to be that if you choose that option, by all means, can you go and fight the way Song Sun Act of War says you should fight? Fighting is a unique strategy. Nothing is wrong about fighting. We study an act of war and we know exactly how the input and output should be. The peace permanent solution is predicated on our totality of power. We are going to use the power that we already have, 30% locked and hid, called the legalism. It's not going anywhere. We need endorsement from the Amazonian revolution. Currently, all the groups, all the fighting elements, please, we are not saying if you're wrong. Can you understand that we are the only people in the world who unilaterally disarm? Can we become the United Ambassadorial Revolution by understanding that we need a foreign government to recognize us? That part of it was part of the stipulation granted us as far back as I said, 2002, after the Green Tree Accord, by members of the Security Council, because they understood that they cannot open up issues of self-determination, aka the Republic of Amazonia, when they themselves have issues. Russia has its own issue in Chechnya, in the republics. You see what was happening, some of them broke out. China has its own, in Taiwan and many other entities with the Muslim people and Tibet. Is there any country that doesn't have self-determination? You went into the issue, I'm saying that Biafra. We have already known that. We anticipate that whenever we're in Nigeria, that question comes after 1 minute. But guess what? It has been over. Because our case is a case of constitutional.
How has it been overcome when we know that one of the very, very one of the parties which has a very high stake in the fight down there in that region has formally recognized the state of Biafra? I'm talking about the Hague of Sea. The Hague of Sea has formally recognized Biafra and is working closely with Biafra.
Biafra case is a case of secession, and we are a case of close restoration. They are not the same. So if somebody, and every revolution have what is called rogue elements. We are not making any apologies for that. I'm not explaining the facts. Before that, before even Egosi went and did that, we warned our handlers. We warned Nigeria that if they don't, they delay, this is going to happen, and it happened. They have an understanding that every revolution have what is called outliers. Egosi is an outlier. So it does not represent the majority of Ambazonians. So when I say it has been anticipated and accounted for, it was anticipated before and it happened. When it was happening, we wanted Egosi not to do it, but they went ahead and did it, but it has all fallen flat. It does not matter, because what happened is that the issue of Nigeria internal dynamics, where a secessionist movement is still bubbling, and our issue of a recognition quest, somebody is trying to correlate them, but we made an argument based on the strength of how the sovereign Republic of Amazonia will reinforce the territorial integrity of the Federal Republic of Amazonia, and it was welcome. So we are never afraid of that argument. It has nothing to do with the Republic of Amazonia quest in Nigeria. It will be brought forward by people who will call distractors, but they will have the answer almost immediately that, well, you see, you have
I think to say you're not afraid of that outcome is either being disingenuous or being dishonest. Because truth be told, the Hague of Sea has high stakes in the fight, in the liberation fight for Amazonia. They have high stakes. When I talk about high stakes, I'm looking at the forces on the ground, the diasporan community, and the outreach. They have been able to get a firm position on the ground, and they have been able to get a firm position in the diaspora as well, and current and still working. And it's not a group which is dying, I would say. So to say we turn our eyes from that, I'm not sure.
When it's the same way of saying that those who engage the military option did it hastily and without planning, and then we are condemned to that. I call that the blackmail factor. The blackmail factor is actually ongoing right now. Failed strategies were adopted in 2017. Let's face it. Okay, if we were to engage militarily with Cameroon, that was not the way we were supposed to engage a military force against a country. That is exactly where we failed so horribly. And that is why, at the very outset, countries assessed it and started making pro-Cameroon pronouncements. It's not that they hate us. And check it. Anthony Guterres in 2016, when the lawyers and strike teachers were coming, we advised the teachers and lawyers, Report Barcelona, at the tail end, please, it has reached a point now. Strikes cannot be conducted indefinitely. The history of strikes. You have an outcome. If it's opposed, you do not engage in the form of state. And if it is, then cease. You've achieved an objective. They took it now to the form of state and hell broke loose. When consortium went out of the country, we pleaded with them to simply now endorse the constitutional problem. The unit that was initiated the change so that we can have an endorsement of the sovereignty argument, which is where our strength is. They refused. They wanted to become change agents, which with an entity that was not defined by them. And what happened was that the competition to become governors of the country started. Back to a situation where you have to understand that we have a requirement in the Amazonian revolution, and we now is those change agents to make sure that we do a due diligence to find out the most optimized strategy. This is where now the question should be answered. If Egosi have gone ahead and made the wrong strategy of endorsing a secessionist movement in Nigeria, that was wrong. Because why? Because if they should have done their preliminary assumption, and this is the preliminary assumption that should guide everybody's thinking, without recognition from Nigeria, without a nod, we are not going to have independence. Do people understand that? The zero-sum proposition for those who think they can go ahead with Nigeria, it's a thinking that fails. No international body, state or sovereign, state or non-state actors view our case without checking what Abuja thinks. Okay? And if we think we have the capability to fight, not Cameroon. Cameroon is a Franco-Cameroon military alliance we will be fighting. We will not be fighting Republic of Cameroon. Because with Cameroon goes, so goes the Francophonie, Equatorial Guinea and all that. So we are fighting an entire alliance. How should we be? Why do we have to adopt stupid strategies? I have to make this out and clear that, yes, you think you want to fight, but the question is, how do you fight? Do you think we did not think about that? When we started this in 1990, you think we did not think? We made an assessment of how the power was. We looked at our polity. Are we united? First, you have to present a united front. Have anybody who came in their various stages, 2001, 2019, did you find out exactly how is our situation? Or does anger becomes bomb? Or those organs become weapon system? No. It's a conscious act that we need to be. We need to get back to a point where the SWOT analysis guides our actions and we let go of emotions and cult personalities. It was not strategic to go and interfere in the internal affairs of a country with the most sufficient interest in our matter, which is Nigeria. Go anywhere. We went to South Africa during the Zuma administration. They told us, get Nigeria on your side. We were in the United States. They told us indirectly, as I told you, those three members, and including the 3 members of Security Council, get an African country on your side. We have not yet, and that was 2007. It's not for lack of trying. It's because we have a political culture of inherent divisiveness. I don't know where this has come from. Children were born in 1984 when restoration law was created. They have not made it their duty to understand their history. They inherited bias from SCNC, which hated Republic of Barcelona for no reason except that Gotindika created himself president of Republic of Barcelona, which was a tick to enhance our sovereignty. My plea is this: power is a construct of conscious development, which we have already we get recognized in our quest that it will happen if we become the united, a modicum. They told us, bring a modicum of unity, and we will have everything we want, including the ground zero element. So my plea is that please have confidence that we have the ability to have all the power to elicit compliance from a recalcitrant La République du Cameroon. The day we will present that modicum of a united Amazonian revolution, which is what the peaceful permanent solution will strike.
So Edwin, in a very short statement, what's the stake you have on the ground today? To 1995, 2005, 2025, over 20 years, what's the stake you have on the ground today if people are looking at the direction of the peaceful permanent solution?
We have the people. We have all the Amazonian people. We did a job. Absolutely, we did a job without help from SCNC to bring out the consciousness of Amazonianness. The Amazonian revolution was recognized by the people. It was not the politicians who came and told them that they're Amazonian. They themselves. Why? Because we stood our grounds against odds from 1990 to promote our consciousness of the Amazonianness. We are not Cameroonians. It's how you fight a revolution. You first win the first battle of the mind. We have won the battle of the mind. So I don't think that people think that because you have to go and have an amber fighting group. Something. If we wanted that, we could have done that. We have the ability to do that better than anybody, but we have a, a desire to do it right once and for all. Because we have people who know what power is. And these people want to pause. These people are not Cameroonians. These people exist in foreign governments. If interim government number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5 did not exist, if we had existed as CACU, Southern Cameroon United Ambassador Front, which was that modicum of unity that we established at this conclave, do you know that the Nigerian passed a resolution for the federal government of Nigeria to intervene on our matter? Ambassadors do not know. But because of what we were working in Nigeria from 2013, they passed it. They asked, and that is still the resolution that we are using with all the administration. We work with Jonathan administration, we work with Buhari administration, we are now working with the Tinubu administration on the principles of rights that needed to be established, the SWOT analysis that will enable us to reveal the truths that will set us free. But it is us who are preventing it, not Africa. It is us. So by your question is implying that the Republic of Tanzania should have a present ground. But I'll ask you, who brought that ground zero activity? Why was it brought in 2017? If you ask them, was there any planning? You will find out that there was no planning. Who is your supporter? How are you supposed to sustain it? There has no plan. That goes to show that we were not ready for that.
Yeah. Another thing is the on the ground today, we have been annexed, we have been colonized, even our mentality has been colonized. There's been the neo-colonialism, and even as you say, the La République is responsible for this. There are people in Southern Cameroon, Southern Cameroonian origin, born Southern Cameroonians, who think that it is a no case fighting for independence or even pursuing what you call the peaceful permanent solution. They are very much okay in the union with La République du Cameroon. Uh, and as the whole struggle has escalated, we've had a whole lot of people who wanted that beautiful, that utopia of Southern Cameroon or Ambazonia, who have lost interest. I would say hundreds of thousands, if not millions, have lost interest and are now looking at a Republic of Cameroon, a united Republic of Cameroon. That's why you have today Southern Cameroonians on the street for Chiruma. They are singing praises to Chiruma. Chiruma who condemned these people. They are singing praises to him. And there is even the movement right now for the fight for Chiruma to be made president, and maybe issues are going to be looked into as he's promised. And that's the way. That's where minds are turning to right now. You have the Balas of the world. You have the Akere Munas of the world. You have, I mean, the top names who are on the ground today. That's the direction. It's a Chiruma win. A Chiruma win is a win for us, and maybe we can enjoy in some union as a federation, as he's promising. Maybe it's a 10-state federation. That's where people's direction are as of right now.
You have just summarized a revolution that was initiated by leaders who failed to take what we call, quote unquote, the PAT test, preliminary assumption requirement test, PART. I think this is where your audience should just bear with the facts of our story. There must be a resetting of the Ambazonian Revolution by a new generation that says never again. What you've just summarized is a reality that happens when human beings are put in a situation where they have to survive. They make adaptations. We knew that if you engage a change process which fails, survival needs will kick in. Our people have been in a state of misery since 2017 and are on the receiving end. They are still on the receiving end right now in what is going on in La République, where in the French country, the Cameroon armies should will
Excuse me.
those
Let me add a question to that statement, to say that shouldn't we find a friend in Chiruma, because he's promised to listen to the people, he's promised to take action, and shouldn't we, as maybe Southern Cameroonians, Republic of Ambazonia, shouldn't they find a friend in Chiruma? What you're talking about, a recognition, he's recognizing these people's identity uh, in a certain way. Isn't that a step? Wouldn't that be a smart move, uh, a smart chess move?
no. The reason is simple. Any Amazonian leader who wants independence has to understand that Cameroon democratic change model will never bring that outcome because they have already established their anti-freedom model, and it will always come to a point where we will fall victim to the compromise or a certain sense of consensus, being the victim of a disunite, being we have a legacy of having united politicians. It is very easy for Cameroon to play us as they're doing right now. So, what is the purpose for us? The preliminary assumption test always comes down to this. We're not even supposed to have been engaged in their change process through that model because it's never going to work. The Fundi's legacy 1992 has just repeated itself with a Chiroma. It will become the same thing on Monday when BI is declared. Whatever has to happen in Cameroon is how Cameroon reacts. Cameroon will react like that until we become free. It's a preliminary assumption test that should have guided us. So this thinking is only thinking from a perspective of people who have not done their homework. We in the sovereignty portfolio, what we call the Proper Ambazonian Sovereignty Doctrine, understand that to engage in this model is a lose-lose proposition. So you cannot go there and be thinking you can negotiate a binary choice plebiscite. Remember that when you do the read up, when you see what Chiroma is speaking, he talks about dialogue and negotiation with quote unquote Ambazonians. But that is not the dialogue that you and I know. And we know that the people who have been they have engaged him do not have a concept of sovereignty because it has not been expressed by them. We know that they will be victimized by dialogue, because some of them will be promoted to be, they'll be probably thinking that they will have autonomy. Some have even gone ahead and said they'll want autonomy now so that in the year 2030 they will be given
Yeah.
a federation. And
Yeah.
stupidities. It makes no sense that we should have, this entire body of polity have degraded our sense of being, that we have no consciousness of our entitlement right. So the same people, this is so sad, because what's so tragic is that these people who have degraded themselves to be thinking they can negotiate autonomy as a stage to lift, to become independent, with the same people who think they had to fight Cameroon. Some of them even think they have a ground zero element. I see that like proposition, you don't understand who you are dealing with. Because here's a simple thing. Cameroon consider us as property for exploitation. And the psychology of, just put it, the psychology of oppression is what drives the ordinary Francophone not to be concerned about us. They were not concerned about us when they were killing in Gabu, but we are now concerned about the events happening in Arua. The thing is, it's almost the Stockholm syndrome manifestation is
Maybe it's just
unbelievable.
our culture of sympathy, being sympathetic, being
Oh,
empathetic. I think that's a core Southern Cameroonian culture.
it is the disaster of a leadership that has no concept of sovereignty. I will put it that way. But all those guys you mentioned, we know them. They have declared their pro-Cameroonian stance. Leave them alone. The challenge is to force them for the binary choice referendum, which is going to win the day. Do you know that the binary referendum is what will permanently and peacefully sort it out? They should be the one to support it. If they're confident about their popularity of being Cameroonian, let's go to the vote. But remember,
There's actually a movement which is out to chase away Bia and then put the plight of the people of Southern Cameroons as well at the forefront, and even ask for what we call the exclusive referendum for the people of Southern Cameroons. There's actually that movement, and maybe that should be what we should be looking at when we talk about
no,
chasing away Bia and endorsing Chiruma.
no, no. What we need to do is focus on what our change is and let whatever happens in Cameroon happen. Be conscious of the fact that if conflict comes in Cameroon, we will always be on the receiving end. Our people are more in their territory because we live to subsist. We go there for economic survival. So we'll be the victim of the xenophobia. All this mechanism where we have to do this in anticipation. It's me only that we do not have the leadership with the consciousness that this is the reality of a totalitarian state in chaos that does not respect rights of the minority. It will not happen because Chiroma has become power, because the citizens still have the psychology of domination. Do their due diligence to secure your own power right now, because that's the best opportunity for you to acquire power so that you can enable to the extent that we have this united posture of insisting on the peaceful permanent solution, which is the united front, is how the French Cameroonians will come to with their own hopeless inability to install democracy and will stop looking at us as their plantation. But when we start making this modification, it just suggests that 70 years of domination hasn't taught us any lesson. We are still unable to recognize that foreign governments see Cameroon as a one unit because we have not told them that there were two units, two sovereign states. It is not, it is our job to tell them. You are now making this proposition thinking that when the one thing comes, then we will tell. What happens is that before that happens, the dominant system, and I call it malevolent dominant, meaning they don't have any good intention for us, will find ways to mitigate all those your anticipation that when it comes to that time, it will not happen. They'll buy off all our leaders, they have the resource to do it. They will intimidate all the thinkers who were doing it, they have the resource. This is our only time now. We were supposed to have done it in 1961, 1966, 1972. All those times. So if this election is turning the way it is turning, then and the people, the victim of what I call recolonization, unite. There's no way you can go and be buying this staggered, I call it the staggered model, in a country where there's no evidence they have any consciousness of you. There is nothing. It's only promises. It never worked in Taiwan. It will not work. What is stopping you from endorsing? You, that person listening, you at the level of the individual, you who have the group. If you are in the diaspora, endorse the dynamic alliance to implement peaceful permanent solution. Put your group there so that we can move as a unit. This is where foreign governments have been asking us to do. Explain this thing to people. People say, you think that foreign government is going to put as a press release? No, we have had contact with foreign governments as far back as 1990. Okay, they have been telling us, get united, get united. The closest we came was SCOOF. But SCOOF lasted only from February 26, 2017 to July 8th. It was stopped by politicians who were concerned, but in governing without sovereignty, just like it happened in 1960. Do you know? Let the audience know that the United Nations Secretary General was so sad that this trusteeship had no leadership that could stand their ground and say no to the plebiscite at the fourth committee meeting of 1959 when the United Kingdom Commissioner Cohen imposed that. So he came, and after visiting Cameroon when they were inaugurating the independence in February 1960, Doc Hammarskjöld, he visited our politicians. Foncha and Endele were the opposition party. He pleaded with them to form a unitary government so that he can cancel the plebiscite. He doesn't have the power to advocate. The Secretary General is not he implements policy. But if he came with a mandate that there was not a unitary government between Foncha and Endele, he would have had the mechanism to have canceled plebiscite, which he knew was our doom. But do you know what happened at that meeting? He did not have Foncha and Endele agree. Fast forward to today. If Anthony Guichara comes today, okay, and asks us, what do we want? Do you know that he's gonna go out still frustrated? Unless we skip ahead, unless you, this new generation, following the people who do not have no vision, leapfrog against our groupism, our core personality, and support the peaceful permanent solution, then he will look at it as a handle to say, okay, I will work with imposing a binary choice plebiscite exclusive to these people to make a final determination for peace in this sub-region. It will gain momentum. Okay, that's how we sort out a problem permanently. I hear it, not temporarily, permanently. If we who are advocating this situation lose, so be it. Let people have faith in the rule. That is the truth. That is the reality, which was missed in 1960. I'm begging you, because you guys are in the new generation, do not inherit the vindictive animosity politics of your parents and grandparents, because they were wrong to have not realized that United Nations Article 6b entitled us to only one thing, to this two proposition: self-government and independence, not annexation.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, we are rounding up and we'll be taking the last statement. But before we do that, we'll take a break, a commercial break, and then we'll be right back in a little bit.
Did you know that based on statistics, a staggering 90% of young people within the ages of 16 and 40 live happier lives when they do not set goals? Of course you didn't. And that, my friend, is cause it's a lie. Now hold up. Before you swipe away, hear me out. Isn't it obvious that without even the indictment of statistics, individuals find great fulfillment in actually setting goals and achieving them. Of course. And that's why we recommend footprint wears, as it serves as a motivating factor and a daily reminder that within our short stay in this world, let's strive as much as possible to be impactful. And it starts with setting those goals. There's nothing as beautiful as looking back and being proud of what we've been able to accomplish. Absolutely nothing. So, my friend, do get for yourself a footprint apparel today. Go! I'm out. Footprints is proudly brought to you by MVA Clothing.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Truth Talk. We are talking about the peaceful permanent solution being presented to us by Sir Edwine Ngang. He is the community organizer for Aspire and leading the movement DATIP. And he will be rounding up with a single statement. What's the call to action, Sir Edwin? What are you hoping to get from here and get the audience to do?
Thank you for this opportunity, my brother, young brother, and thank Victor. I really applaud what you're doing. Your generation holds the solution to a problem that has transitioned 3 generations. I think a generation is 20 years. It's sad. I was born at the time when this rubbish happened. The call for action is this. You see, aspire, Amazonians who aspire to secure and protect the integrity of the revolutions. It's a simple premise that we believe in our rights. We believe that we subsist as human beings. We should no longer be imposed conditions that even slaves should not. So it's such a sad premise that people are telling us to go dialogue and negotiate to become a bilingual country in which all the attributes of freedom will never advantage us. So that is wrong. That violates Articles 1 of the United Nations, our right for freedom, Article 51, the responsibility to protect acts. So I think that the only reason why this has persisted is because we have not been out there talking the truth about our existence. So the call for action is simple. Do not think that the individual listening, whether you are in Japan, in Brazil, or in America, I will never recommend people back at home to expose themselves because I don't want anybody to be hurt. But those of you in the diaspora, please, the level of your individual, come out and claim your rights of existence as a sovereign being, which will be protected by a country which has been constitutionally and legally constructed for you. It's Republic of Amazonia. You have an argument there, 30% locked. It is for you now to expose this truth to the world because Cameroon is doing everything to hide it. And how do we do that? There's an organization which was created September 9th, just last month. It's called the Dynamic Alliance to Implement the Peaceful Permanent Solution. It simply means that we need to create a movement, which is the highest change process in a revolution. A movement does not require you knowing the facts. Brain endorse Dynamic Alliance to implement the peaceful permanent solution because you know it is the truth, it's your right, and it's your identity. This is how it works. You simply go out, you post a press statement at the level of your group that you have supported the peaceful permanent solution. And the peaceful permanent solution is simple. As I've explained all out, it's based on the best outcome of SWOT analyzing our revolution. It is where our strength is, and it is where the ultimate power to elicit compliance from Cameroon will come. There are, of course, no guarantees in life, but here's one guarantee you should already have. 30% power exists in the law. We know we have people who are in the background pleading that we should come united. I know that because that's where I've been investing all my time. So, and I cannot expose them. So this is a difficulty. We cannot come out with a video to show those actions that are happening. But please, you should know that if M23 can have Rwanda working for them, supporting them fully, and they are fighting a case which has no constitutional framework like us. What about us? So we have the best case of self-determination. And please take it. The entire community of nations today recognizes as recognizes the strategy of exclusive referendum as the one to solve permanently and peacefully intractable problems, which is ours now. So, regardless of everything, we know that people out there in the world have cited the case of Bangsaramon in Mindoro Islands in Philippines, the Aceh people in Indonesia, and you can even throw in the Bougainville people in Papua New Guinea. So when we go out there and be calling for exclusive referendum, we will have a lot of company. We have institutes that are going to adopt us. I can cite them out publicly. European Institute of Peace will be party to us. The Hudson Institute, the Carnegie Endowment for Peace and Democracy, which is an entity that we worked with in the early days of 90s, which adopted our cause here in the United States, and the Center for Peace and Conflict Studies. We'll be so happy that we are now recovered from our disastrous, divisive politics and have leaped forward. I'm saying leap forward because I know there will be some entities that are going to resist this because they claim that they are governments and they are groups. We are not saying that everybody's going to endorse. That's why we say you at the level of the individual be courageous enough to know that you can be a change agent for this solution. Do not delegate your life to people who made mistakes at time one, which is in 2017, have not even acknowledged them, the mistakes. The mistake was that we engaged conflict when we were not prepared. That is a clear mistake. If anybody says, "Oh no, we're gonna learn it," let me put it this way: those of us who were working in legalism knew there was a change model called conflict. At the time we were approaching diplomats, we were also approaching those who knew conflict, but they told us, please, gather your arguments, gather your people. When it comes to that, if it comes to that, it will be the least of your problem. And this is what we've heard. If it came to conflict, had we been united as the Amazonian people who understood our rights to our conscious identity that is entitled to us by Article 76B, we will find this conflict the least of our problem because foreign governments will be behind us, just like M23 has its own action in DRC and is very successful. We cannot be acting as silly people in a new world order. By the way, I must end by stating something very important. The geopolitics of the Gulf of Guinea is very, very important. Please, we must respect the geopolitics. And here is how it goes. The territorial integrity of Nigeria must be respected by the Amazonian Revolution. We must project a sense of congruence with Nigerian internal and external security because it enhances our cause in the eyes of the greater powers who are contesting in the Gulf of Guinea right now. And if we find ourselves on the wrong end of that, we will be destroyed. Let nobody make no mistake about that. Let nobody be thinking it doesn't matter. We will never succeed. So it's very important that we, the Amazonian revolutionary change leaders, respect the territorial integrity of Federal Republic of Amazonia at all times and make sure that we are in alignment with their best interest. We will succeed. The moment Nigeria notes, we are gone. Because South Africa is there, they've already indicated. We know Ghana, we know Sierra Leone, we know all the Commonwealth countries will be party to that. But to make this stupidity of going and acting as if we are, who do we think we are? Fight an entire Franco-Cameroon military alliance. Everybody sees us like stupid. That's the reason why you've been seeing pro-Cameroon temporal solutions. Everything that has been proposed since 2016, go and read them. Whether it's from Antonio Guterres, the British Prime Minister then in 2017, Theresa May, and the United Institute of Peace, no, the European Union president, at one time, you notice the language, reinforced territorial integrity of Cameroon. Once you see that, you know that you're gone. There's nothing you can do. So our job is to explain that the territorial integrity of Cameroon is sacrosanct. as long as the constitutional framework is recognized as Republic of Cameroon, which no longer has territorial, no longer should have control over another territorial integrity of Republic of Amazonia, and which is what United Nations map discovered when the gift of 2 months was presented to Libya in the 20th and 50th anniversary in 2010. We have that evidence. So why have we not made that argument? The only reason is because we are weak, we are disunited, and still fighting among ourselves. I'm sending this message, but to the youth, so that do not let the, I think, 3 generations, your father, grandfather, and great grandfather, divisive attitude bring this burden, shame, and subjugation to you, who are now saddled with stupidity of being the only United Nations trust territory to have never acceded to independence. We are the only people who never fulfilled the mandate of Article 76B. The territory of Palawa got independent in 1996. And many of them got their independence. They sat quietly. Had we not formed political parties and sat quietly, we would have been independent. So I'll just end by pleading that please endorse the dynamic alliance. Here's the word dynamic, meaning that it will keep increasing, because when you join it, you have now changed and become the movement. You are now the ambassador and rising to fall. No more movement in ground zero. We in the diaspora. So have confidence, 100% confidence that it is the dynamic alliance that will unite the Amazonian revolution. You will have conferences and then you develop your leadership structure, and the entire community will know that we are moving forward and will support a peaceful permanent solution, because the arguments are unimpeachable. We know that. We are very confident with that. So don't be worried about any discussion that will happen between Cameroon and this dynamic alliance or the Republic of Amazonia. We will win the argument at any day in the court of law or in the public forum. But the only weakness is that we are weak as a polity. So leapfrog over the confusion now.
Yeah, I think that, like Sengabo said, we probably should have you on another session. We get to talk a little bit more because there's a whole lot that we are missing, and it will be proper for us and for the viewers to get to know more about this. Take some time as well to look into what you have said, do our own personal research, and come to terms with the peaceful permanent solution which is being presented. But thank you very much for honoring our invitation and for being here with us. We truly do appreciate, and we'll keep in touch. And fellow viewers, thank you for listening, for staying tuned, and remain with us on our next episode, on our upcoming episodes. This has been Truth Talk, and presented to you by the Truth Oriented Knights, with I being the host. Until next time, it's bye-bye from me.
Thank you.